Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming. I'm Lucy Handley from the Ridgefield Library. I'm the Adult Programs Coordinator, and tonight I am delighted to introduce Barb Jennes, who's Ridgefield's Poet Laureate Emerita. Her collection, Blinded Birds, received the 2022 International Book Award for a poetry chapbook. Another chapbook, Flown, an elegy for her late sister, will be published in 2024. Welcome, Barb.
Oh, thank you, Lucy, and welcome everyone this evening. We're so grateful you came. I know we were talking before we started about there are a lot of readings going on, whether about other situations in the world or just local readings. So we're so grateful you chose us. Also, as Lucy mentioned, there will be a recording made available on the the library's YouTube channel. So if you'd like to share tonight's reading with others, please do. It may take a couple of days for it to get up there. So as Lucy mentioned, I'm Barb Jennes. I wanted to give you, because this is a Breast Cancer Awareness Month tribute in poetry, I want to give you just a little bit of background, which you may already be familiar with, of the state of breast cancer today. 1 in 8, these are quite recent statistics, 1 in 8 women in the United States will be diagnosed with breast cancer in her lifetime. And as Nicole mentioned too, that's in a society where there is a lot of preventative care. So nonetheless, 1 in 8. In 2023, an estimated almost 300,000 women and 2,800 men will be diagnosed with invasive breast cancer. Chances are, you know, at least one person who has been personally affected by this disease. But clearly, there's hope. When caught in its earliest localized stages, the 5-year relative survival rate is 99%. And again, this is in a population with abundant health care and not necessarily all ethnic groups within the same society, but a fairly hopeful rate. Advances in early detection and treatment methods have significantly increased, and there are currently over almost 4 million breast cancer survivors in our country. So awareness of the facts and statistics surrounding breast cancer in the U.S. is very key and very powerful in empowering us to make informed decisions about our health. So please encourage your friends, your loved ones, your siblings, your parents to take good care. Tonight's reading features poems by 3 breast cancer survivors, and I'll introduce them as we go on, who are going to share their journey through their diagnosis and treatment to recovery and hope. Another set of poems that I'll be sharing tonight pay tribute to a 4th brave woman, my sister, who sadly did not triumph in her second battle with this disease. But tonight is not about sorrow or loss or pain. It's about courage and survival and that human longing to stay. So we all know survivors. Many of you probably are survivors, and tonight you'll meet 3 more and hear the story of a 4th brave woman. So Lucy already introduced me. What I'll do with all the poets, I'll introduce them briefly, but then in the chat, I'm going to post more thorough biographies. So if you want to get the names, specific titles of collections, you can go to the chat and find the information there. And we encourage you always to please buy the books of these poets. That's why we're here. I mean, besides to read and to share, this is our profession, and it would be great if you could either buy or go to your library and ask if they can order an interlibrary loan, or perhaps even have a copy of the books you'll hear from tonight. As I mentioned, I'm going to read poems from a collection, a chapbook that's going to be published next year by Pork Belly Press called Flown. And you'll see references to that title in several of the poems. I'm going to start with a poem. By the way, a lot of the titles have the word dying in them. I don't mean that to be too startling, but it is the reality. As I was writing these poems during my sister's illness, and it was the reality that was a harsh reality, but very much there. I'm wearing the earrings that this next poem is about, called I Buy Earrings for My Dying Sister. Some would call the purchase foolish. Her birthday is months away, but silver or glass is my only indecision. The silver pair are mirror bright and show my reflection upside down. A gray-haired woman, I don't know, looking for comfort that isn't there in the metal or anywhere. I choose the glass pair, simple squares with a grid of sure straight lines and one tiny dot of red on each, a vanishing point on the horizon. My dying sister sings to her brain. She sits at the table, croons, old dogs stare in her eyes. Music therapy. She works to rewire a dying brain. Long remembered lyrics spill from cortex corners. Otherwise, she utters only cryptic syllables, a language it's not yet our time to understand. My sister is dying, so I feed the birds. Not so close to the house, my husband cautions. You're not just feeding birds, you know. But if magnetic warmth draws mice through hair-fine cracks, if they nest behind blankets of cotton candy batting, find seed troves left by previous occupants, discover secret routes to the kitchen's abundance, so be it. On pink paws or wings, hunger is life. A lot of these poems reflect back on childhood memories and kind of link the present and the past in ways. This one's called Don't Tell Lies, My Dying Sister Tells Me, 1961. She was whipped with a switch when I blamed her for whatever childhood misdeed sent our mother into a rage. Later, she limps from the house, sits on the swing next to mine. Her silence stings. I love her more than God. Don't tell lies, she says at last. They hurt other people. Now I ask if she's afraid. Her silence stings. A sparrow strikes the window when my sister starts home hospice. Spooked by something larger, it flies the wrong way, hammers glass, drops to snow, withers into a ball. Eyes closed, motionless so long, I'm sure it is a broken thing. After tea, I'll take it to the woods, leave it for whatever comes. But when I round the house to claim it, there's only a hollow where something fell, gathered, flew. I'm going to skip this one. My sister turns her face from spring. Oldest and bravest, she stood between him and the weak, fearlessly faced the maw, finger that stabbed, salvo of needle-sharp spittle. Now forsythia's yammer yellow at her, daffodils mock her for what she cannot do. I pull the blinds, plant myself between her and the fierce, unstoppable green. A wish for my dying sister. The time you rode me home on your handlebars, pedaling us both up Route 43, front wheel wobbling, cars veering, horns dopplering, knowing we'd catch hell. When we crested Sager Hill and started down, the brakes useless to slow us, our fear turned to laughter, turned to wind, turned to silence, turned us to meteors. Let it be like that. When it rains on Saturday, my dying sister plays teacher, 1962. We hunch on stools at metal tray tables. She lectures from the playroom chalkboard, wipes her hands on corduroy pants. She teaches us what she knows from school, nouns and verbs, adjectives. I'm too young for adverbs, she says, but I try. She is older by years. I cry at long division. Don't worry, she says. I'll show you how. A few more, just a couple more. A mockingbird sings as my sister dies. It fills the buck moon night, summoning a life, dog bark, blue jays blast, our mother's laugh, finessing each note as if the last. Near dawn, the song stills. All is done. But as the moon sets, I hear the bird begin again, testing a new song far away. I think a lot of us have this morning ritual with Wordle. This is a poem based on that. It's called My Dead Sister Speaks to Me Through Wordle. When grave follows death within a few games, I decide it's her. Is that you, I ask? False, the day's word. A day later, maybe. Where are you? Apart, she answers. A week later, alone. How is it where you are? For days she's silent. The game is just a game. This morning, flown. And I'll end with a poem that I wrote quite recently on the Yahrzeit, the year anniversary of her passing. It's called Yahrzeit with Chicory. Chicory are those beautiful wild flowers that grow in disturbed soil along the edge of the road. They kind of like spiky blue petals on them. So this is called Yahrzeit with Chicory. Excuse me. Chicory stalks thrashed our calves as we dashed down the unmown lawn, commanding us to look. Each stem bore a rising bouquet of flowers, princess heads poking from thin castle towers, and each flower bore a whorl of sawtooth-tipped petals, blue tongues hungry for sun. They were the color of the quilts that cloaked our beds, a hue of blue found nowhere else in our world, not the sky, not the stream, not even in Nana's garden. We plucked them by fistfuls, hurried them indoors to slake in vases, but the flowers never survived the assault. They curled like limp spiders, foiling our desire to keep them as our own. Today, I race down a chicory-lined road, blue seas that sigh as my car sails by, just as they fanned farewell a year ago as I hurried to the house bereft of you. Oh, how you struggled to stay. And I remember how urgent we were to preserve those bright bursts of uncommon blue that grew free as weeds until they were gone. So thank you. All right, so our next poet this evening, Felicia Zamora, is the author of 6 books of poetry, several of which have garnered awards. A Canto Mundo and Ragdale Fellow, she won the 2022 Lorraine Williams Poetry Prize from the Georgia Review, a 2022 Tin House Next Book Residency, and a 2022 Ohio Arts Council Individual Excellence Award. She is associate professor of poetry at the University of Cincinnati and associate poetry editor at the Colorado Review. So please, first of all, welcome Felicia Zamora and look for her bio in the chat. Welcome, Felicia.
Thank you, Barb. Thank you so much. And thank you for those wonderful and gut-wrenching pieces about your sister. For everyone who's here watching, thank you for spending time with us. I want to give some big shout outs to 2 artists who I've had the pleasure of sharing the learning environment with, Ria and Grace. Thank you so much for making time. I know that you two are so busy and there are many other things to be doing, and supporting me. I can feel that across cyberspace. Mm-hmm. Shai and Cynthia are 2 women who are here tonight that have supported me unbelievably in the last year. And one is one of my best friends in the whole wide world, Shai, and the other was my department head, Cynthia, who just went to bat for me in every way, shape, or form when I could not be there. So thank you, Cynthia. And Cynthia, I am sending special hearts to you tonight. Yeah, I mean, I'm going to be real honest and raw, is that my treatment, one leg of it finished in July 10th of just a few months ago. And so I'm in a different role now with what I'm going through in hormone therapy. And so I don't know what survivorship means. I'm trying to figure that out. And I had a project that I was working on prior to being diagnosed last year on July 15th of 2022. And I thought that project was going to be completely derailed. I thought at one point, I'm like, I'm never going to write again, again. And then what I found is that I kept trying to not write poems about cancer. And I realized that that's never going to happen. And I let in what I was going through. And not only was I able to write poems about cancer, I was also able to write poems about the project. And the project that am working on, or actually I'm just finishing, it is now a melding of me talking to ancient Mesoamerican documents. I actually had the huge privilege of going to the Vatican 2 weeks before my mastectomy to hold the Codex Yauya, which is one of the only surviving codices from the Spanish colonization of ancient Mesoamerica, specifically Mexico. And I got to study it and hold it, and it was a real life-changing experience. So what I'm going to read tonight is actually this strange conglomeration of breast cancer meets living meets my lineage and a search for that. So that's kind of a large intro. I'm also going to show a couple of the pieces, only because for me, it's visual, and I do want to say for some people, like, I don't think there's anything here that visually might be too overwhelming or triggering, but I am going to show an image that is part of the imaging I had done during diagnosis. So just as an FYI for anyone who is going through treatment or who is a survivor, an FYI to that. So let me bring this up, and then I'll begin. I carry a word world inside me, where word and the tangible object of that word world collide. My brain thinks traces and again sings words at the back of my throat. The unconscious is the most evasive archive of all, yet is pulsating right there inside you. How the brain talks through and within epithelial barriers, porous borders, how the brain chatters. Yet in the world of synapses, even the brain may not know. Language and archive, flesh and archive, a felt presence. When what you feel supersedes the imaging, the mammogram cleared. And so, what we keep hungry in the dark, what keeps, how much depends on a cell. I carry a word world inside me, what wraps tightly amongst the organs, cells that do not mature, forego the process of differentiation to reproduce, a silent stalking. I carry a word world inside me, a word world unimpressed with naming, with its own name. And this name, I speak this word world so often my tongue tastes of dandelion sap. Let me say tissues. 4 types of tissues reside in the human body: connective, epithelial, muscle, and nervous. Connective tissues bind and support by holding together blood, bone, and lymphatic tissues. How the epithelial covers, the skin and the linings of various passages become noticeable, heightened. Tender motions, emotions, veins, muscles of me. To deconstruct. Inside the word world lives other word worlds. Clever brain, always making games. To deconstruct tissues. Tis, uses, us, sits, is, sues, issues. Ah, there, issues. Deeper still, revolt, sickening, gorge, invasive. Deeper still, relinquish, nipple tug down, 10-centimeter incision, harvest, ghost of a breast, neuropathy, echoing, empty, lymph nodes, space, carcinoma. Deeper still, until gutturals, until no archive left to hunt, haunt. This next piece is the one that's in conversation with the codex. So this is the Codex Yauye It's plate 44. The codex is on 73 pages of animal skin that are all attached and accordioned together. It is front and back, and it's actually read from right to left or up and down. So this is one of the plates, and the section in the manuscript that talks about this are called undulations. And this undulation is very specific to this night. So each one of these, it doesn't really matter what order they're taken in, but I'm just going to start from kind of the left and right around. All the blood makes you pause. As a child, you twisted a hanging plant on a dare. Twisted and twisted until the ceramic holder broke over your foot. Blood soaked your jelly shoes and in the run home. You hid behind the bathroom door until your mother found you. 12 stitches. You remember warmth between your toes, along with the throbbing gash. Xochitl, young goddess of the moon, can't she see the bat above her holds a heart, and a bifurcated torrent of blood floods her face? You wonder about the warmth, who you try to impress, who laughs, and who's left wanting, what trees sprout from your ribs. All the blood makes you pause. You bled first at church, down in the basement bathroom below the altar, rolling toilet paper around your hand, measuring the lining of your underwear. Insistence of blood in a girl's body. Threat of leaking through. Threat of the boy you desired pointing at your blood-soaked ass. Threat of smelling iron and pubic hair and the jokes around the one-armed desks. Girls throwing ketchup-soaked pads down the hall like hand grenades. You rarely thought of sacrifice then, even in the crucifix bathroom. Now you think of Smoke Eye and Hummingbird costume, his last appearance in the ritual sequence, his supernatural journey through blood to become transformed. How many of your rituals require blood? What happens when the blood stops? All the blood makes you pause. Chemo forces you into menopause, so you notice blood. How when buying a new Honda CR-V and suddenly Honda CR-Vs drop from the sky. Same color too. Color is important. You notice blood like that. You think about blood spilling, then not. You who becomes bloodless outside of the body. You who no longer bleeds from between your legs. You who no longer is able to reproduce. You childless, you crone. You who did not produce a child, which is your purpose. You who lineage from sacrifice. Jose who worked at the chicken plucking plant, snapping necks. Linda who took the fists. How a bruise consumes tendons, filaments, organs, the undersides of flesh. Makes a person tender behind bone. Evelyn, who inherited $25,000 from her brother Willis, farm family mentality, only for Bernard to buy a tin roof for the motel. The pin, pin, pin before the thunderstorms, her head and her hands, her veins running through yours. No more future veins. Some of the people who know me, I grew up in a motel. And I grew up living with my grandparents on my mother's side, so there's a lot of strange reference to motel all the time that happens in my work. I think I might try to read maybe, let's see, how am I doing on time? Do I have time for maybe one more, two more? Okay, maybe I'll try two more. Moving into a different phase of my treatment, I'm actually going to read this one. I think you heard this one already, Nicole, but I'm going to read it because of some of the people who are in the room too. Xibalba ritual. Oh, sorry. Another part of this manuscript is all about the Mayan underworld, which is Xibalba. Xibalba is the name of the Mayan underworld. And so there's a whole lot of stories about Xibalba and what's called the Popol Vuh. The Popol Vuh is a Spanish text that was originally translated, they believe, from Nawa, but that original document does no longer exist. And then it was transcribed from Spanish and then into English. And the Popol Vuh is the Maya, Quiche Maya creation story. And so this is, there is mentions of some characters who are part of that Mayan creation text. So that's what Xibalba is. It's literally interprets as place of fright. It is the Mayan underworld. Xibalba. Birth date. I slide my left arm out of the pink hospital wrap before the technician says good. 25 days of birth date. And the response. Good, that's you. Each step of cancer treatment becomes its own type of ritual. With chemo, say your name and birth date. Heparin to clean the port, water and snacks, the hot blanket, Decadron and anti-nausea IVs first. The dietitians, are you eating? Tonguing my mouth sores while I lie about not eating spicy food. Then the red devil, later Taxol. Constructs of time disintegrating, beeping monitors, more heparin, the see you next weeks. Now with radiation, day after day of no, I have not fallen since yesterday. No, I have not come into contact with someone who has COVID since yesterday. Waiting room fluorescence, we're ready for you. Bare chest, hospital wrap, locker key, my name, my name, my name, my birth date, my birth date, my birth date, bare chest, laying on the table with the head, neck, shoulder pillow molded to my form, the country music station, thinking about my dislike of country music, but feeling like a shit because it's not my space. The technicians closing the 2 feet thick radiation door, the interior conversation about keeping my eyes closed or open while the machine runs, closing my eyes, counting second by second on each breath hold, 1,000. Oh, I just skipped ahead. Machine runs, closing my eyes, opening my eyes, the intercom voice saying, breathe in and hold your breath, closing my eyes, opening my eyes, counting second by second on each breath hold, 1,000, 2 1,000, 3 1,000, worrying a shallow breath will melt my innards, worrying too deep of a breath will melt my innards. Sound of the machine starting and stopping reminds me of Ripley using the power loader to fight the xenomorph queen in Aliens, looking into the gray-brown lead to memorize the shape of the anvil and thinking of all that hammers me today. And how I'd rock that power loader suit too. Make those metal hips shake, shake, shake. And Sigourney Weaver and I would create a choreographed dance that would lock massive wrench hands and twist and twist and twist until my motion sickness kicks in and I throw up in front of Sigourney. And she laughs, saying, I still throw up on merry-go-rounds. And we take off the power loaders and head to Urban Artifact to drink sour beers and laugh about all the monstrosities itching to burrow inside us, itching to break us, but can't. That one was actually for Grace and Rhea. And then this last one, and Nicole, this is the piece. I did not plan to write a piece while I was in Miami, and here it came. It was actually after we had dinner. So I'm going to dedicate this one to Nicole. Xibalba Rebirth. 2 months after your last radiation session, Ocean water fills your ears. Muffle of seagull chatter. Muffle of ship horns in the distance. Muffle of the man singing to his lover in Spanish as they spoon chest deep in waves. The very ocean itself gathers close to your eardrums, whispering to you in swells, beats, and illegible echoes. Your body held as tender bloat into tide. Because aren't you also an illegible echo pounding into nothingness with belief someone, thing, place not only hears the pulses but utters back, hey, hey, I get you? The whole damn world quieted. The unknown quivers around you, in you, your face above the lapping into sun. Sun, harsh lover, turns the inside of your eyelids red. In suspension, you think of the Popol Vuh. You think of Hunahpu and Xbalanque. After they jumped into the flames, the soothsayers spread their ashes into the Xibalban River. They transformed into fishmen. Later, gods again. Dressed as peddling performers, they returned to one death and seven death trickier. You think of tricks. You could think of the flight attendant en route to the ocean asking, we need 20 people from the front to move to the back. Only 70 people on 175 seats of a 737. You think about ratios and weight and how comfort arrives disguised as unbalance. You wonder if Hunahpu and Xbalanque felt askew in their new forms, now being brothers reborn in waters of Xibalba. You read the news about dangerous riptides due to the new hurricane forming in the Pacific. Illegibility, a type of riptide promising, then withholding. You always wonder, illegible to whom? Cells inside you wonder why you wonder so much. You think about coastlines where any body meets another body, all crash, 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 all anticipation, all flooding forward, all tearing back. Desire in the repeat, desire in the repeat. You flip your body from float to stand. To your left, a moon jellyfish, clear and mushroom-headed, with red gonads visible, announcing to you, hey, hey, I'm here too. Aloneness? Nah, just float. You think of Xbalanque cutting off Hunahpu's head, growing it back. You think of one death and seven deaths screeching, now me, my turn. How many tricks does it take? The inevitability of the lords of Xibalba losing heads. Inevitability of the hero twins winning. Inevitability any story ending in clap, clap. And any story ending. End string from a story, a moral, a story, a mortal. Did Xbalanque and Hunahpu risk as gods tricking? You remember wise words. Mortality makes people squirmy. You think of your own trickiness. You and moon jellyfish side by side, briefly squirmless, briefly aware, before the tide moves you both along. Thank you all.
Wonderful. Oh my gosh. I gotta say, I love Sigourney Weaver. What a wonderful, it's so good to have that kind of fresh, uplifting humor in there, but also poignant. In fact, and how it relates to how there are things that want to get inside us. So thank you very much. Beautiful reading. Next, we have, let me pull up my notes here. Valerie Duff. Valerie has held fellowships from the VCCA and Writers' Room of Boston. Her second book, Aquamarine, was published this month by Lily Poetry Review Press, just this month. You can find it online and also through your independent bookseller. Her previous volume, To the New World, was shortlisted for the Seamus Heaney First Collection Poetry Prize from Queen's University in Belfast. Valerie is a writer at Harvard Kennedy School, and she studied poetry at Boston University and Trinity College. So please welcome Valerie Duff.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. And I have to say, these poems are going to feel a little spare after Felicia's. Those were amazing. Thank you, Barb, for hosting this. And thank you, everyone, for coming, and to the other readers. Really appreciate it. I am reading from Aquamarine for the first time tonight. I didn't realize how difficult it would be to read from the book, so I'm going to do the best the best I can. Thank you so much. I am a breast cancer survivor. I was diagnosed in 2016. I'm going to start with a poem that actually precedes the diagnosis. My cancer was caught on a routine mammogram. I had an ultrasound and I couldn't get a biopsy right away, and I had a vacation planned, and they sent me along on my vacation. So this poem is about that period of time. Biome. There was a blue drink on the porch sill at the Black Whale. So many things show up on tests. This is how we live, adjusting odds, percentages in our favor. Still, I sweated in a hot back room, windows seemed shut. Googling survive, Googling fear, never death, never radial symmetry or prime mover, the Wi-Fi ghosting. Meanwhile, outside, bumper cars and sand toys nested in the oyster grass. Island birds pieced songs from soft white sand, and little tar not far from 3 Mile Island, the guard who held me upside down. How close lifeguard to diagnostic tool. I never felt the thing, the jelly luminescent in my breast. Its Medusa stalks, a wave of supplication, umbrella pulse of dreams. And the book is not entirely about my cancer journey, but there's a significant portion that is. And I've never really thought about exactly what points along the journey these come. This one is called Lace Curtain You Drape Over Every Mirror, and I suppose it was during a period when I was going through radiation. Lace curtain you drape over every mirror. Keep that smile barbed, the wire the horse leans against. Birds crack seeds on the other side of your glass door. The body, blind, curves its hedge down paths through time's narrow microscope. A clump of cells, narrow threader juking the ground, reverberates. They say it's gone. It's gone. Everyone's hands shifting you gently. No knowing, not knowing. You know that now. Their silent nods, stonecutter precision, your plea for the tool. After my mastectomy, I got my pathology report, which both terrified me and fascinated me. So this was my attempt at creating poetry out of that report. I tried to blend the words in so that they don't necessarily jump out at you as being from a pathology report, but I should say the last line is italicized and it's 6 words directly from the report. Report. Oh, honey, the unspoken life of the body and the world in which we drink tea and eat the ruby seeds that doom us half to hell. To be so scared when considering the afterlife in the sentinel pot where tea may steep too long. A riverbed of tannin coats the way a specimen lines a dish. The body, its margin assessment, has forgotten where it came from. A snow-capped mountain that's left its origins behind. Strata too deep to feel, layered up to melting ice. Its axillary may one day give way to a deluge that will hide the dye-stained earth, simply spun to a surface of water. A change so gradual, most don't feel the slipping of the shoreline until core markers are submerged, until all systems are undone. because invasion, history of dragonfire ignites the satellites that wink and spread across the galaxy, leaving only the suggestions of ourselves, prognostic rolls of the dice. The wheel spins to reassess when a fortune teller with the tarot comes to discern the fireworks display. All has turned to ash, to sack. Only skin remains, a cloak that lived a lie so long, cutaneous tissue with no diagnostic abnormality. I'm going to read a poem called Gentrified. And I'm not really sure. I think there are a few things I need to say about this one. This one was written in 2018. I was at the VCCA. So the roommate I refer to here is the person I was sharing the apartment with at the residency. And the other thing I think you need to know is that the VCCA is 5 minutes from where I grew up. So I got to visit many of the locations from my childhood while I was there. Gentrified. The coffee's good, but I wonder where those people I used to see on the porches have gone, leaning over railings in the heat, the state of their homes. Is the living Jesus on the wall? Does their roof still leak? Their junk heap is not join you for dinner. My roommate had a tick like concrete in her shoulder. I couldn't identify it for her. It could have been a nevus on her skin. She had it scooped out. She pantomimed how the doctor dug and dug, bigger than it looked when she raised her shirt in the sunlight and begged me, someone she had known a day, to check. She knows her body, she said. Some nights I startle from sleep, wonder what it is I haven't done that must be done, what pill I didn't take, what one thing could make a difference I forgot, what mistake I will make next. My roommate has a course of drugs to take. I look for ticks on the surface of my skin. I check exposed arms, back of my knees. I feel over the scar because there is no feeling there a tick could make. The new breast shape, a badge that makes me happy, my war wound, a permanent limp. I want to be a small spot on moving earth that doesn't recognize me. Moss growth, my initials forever in the trunk of a tree, so many ferns and roots waiting to be freed. Back and forth, I go across the James and am a taxidermist's dream. And I'm going to read one more. This one draws from the myth of Phaeton, who drove his father's chariot, Helios's chariot, across the sky, and crashed and burned. Chemo, that open to the sun. His father lifts him. Godlike toxins make him different, make him live again. World of grit and descent, the sun god's son, in phosphorescent veils of fire stream, intravenous alchemy, permits the shock and blitz to bring him home. His eyes shoot through gold crowds to marble columns, base turned lustrous solid in his hands. He benefits, then burns. Immortal horses near the broken chariot put out light. In Phaeton's iron mask, their still points form. Thank you.
Wow, thank you, Valerie. That was really, really beautiful. The line that just grabbed me and broke my heart was one thing that could make a difference I forgot. I'm sure, yeah, that's such a reality. And I love also the mythological reference, and also in Felicia's work with the Mayan mythology. Just really, it's funny how we go to those sources for connection, for understanding, for arriving at a truth. So thank you very much. Okay, next we have, let me get up my notes again. Next, we have Nicole Callihan. Nicole's latest collection, This Strange Garment, navigates her journey through the diagnosis and treatment of bilateral breast cancer. Callahan's other books include Superloop, 3 poetry chapbooks, and a novella. For 20 years, she taught expository writing at NYU, and she is currently co-editing Braving the Body, an anthology to be published by Terrapin Books in 2024. So please look for Nicole's longer biography and the titles of her chapbooks and other publications in the chat. And welcome, Nicole.
Thank you, Barb. I'm so grateful that you had me here, and I loved hearing your poems for your sister, Flown, really moving, and it was so great to hear Felicia and Valerie. So thank you. I'm going to read from The Strange Garment. I'm hoping I can see. I got these glasses. They make everything big. Imaging. Blue cloth gown, washed so often and at such high temperatures as to become the softest thing that has ever touched my body. I want to lie down on the cold tiles, pull the gown over my head, over my mother's head, grandmother's, the radiologist Galena's head. She touches me with such kindness and intelligence that I want to kiss her. But instead, I cry and thank her. She says something in Russian, and then that it's her job. And I wonder if I might ever do my job so well. I think about the surgery. I think I want them to take both of my breasts, just take them, leave long scars. I will be a different woman, more blue cloth, bendy straw, that ice for a while, then out on the street, no better, just more me, maybe, no shame, no stretch at the buttons, no, my eyes are up here, look me in my eyes, I'm alive, look me in my eyes, Galena tells me to breathe. Breathe, honey, she says. Galena tells me to hold my breath. Now breathe. Now hold it again. Now fold your arm like a wing. Now look this way. Pretend the door is a window and you're looking through it. And what you see is not beautiful, but is what is. So my diagnosis was in September 2020. And I wrote that poem actually like 2 years before. It was in the Bellevue Literary Review. And then when these poems started coming together, I was like, oh, I guess that one can be included. This one is my shout out to my friends Zoe and Caitlin, who are here, I believe. So at Lost Lake. The hands are not stopped at noon, are pouring clean water from a green pitcher, the vacancy in me flashing from the road, swimming pool, cable TV, park and back, the motor in and the two-hearted ale, the dragonfly. This afternoon, my friends have bare feet and the frogs are fighting. It is not lost on us that we will each die, one and then the other, organs hardening. I will make myself soft. I will own myself. I will watch the shadow of these leaves until the clouds come, and then I will wait for their shape to return. Oh, inlet, oh, cove. Caitlin rows us to the middle of the lake, her slight, strong shoulders. We sit in the sun until we grow thirsty. Zoe has baked a cake for my 46th birthday. Will we sing? We are already singing. What's surrendered? Which road did we ride in on and which out? a black band on a straw hat, a green fly on the blue cheese. It's August again, the ache, the downpour, to be out of your head, out of your element, out in the elements, elemental, in and out and without and with and with and with. If a day is to eternity, as eternity is to a day, if evening, if when. Zoe says she's grown brave about picking up the parts of dead rodents, and we have all grown brave, haven't we? Brave and undignified, the end of summer collecting like sweat on the backs of our thighs. And then my diagnosis, all sorts of things happened, and I think I'm moving ahead. This is called the as if of. I haven't yet mentioned that they moved my belly button. Actually, they didn't move it. They took it off and moved everything around it. And then they sewed it back into the exact spot I'd point to if someone were to ask where my belly button is. Like asking a toddler where her ears are, her mouth, her face, like stealing her nose, the rose of your thumb between your fingers, like asking the dog where her bone is, though no one asks where my belly button is. I wonder why it wasn't tossed with the other scraps. In this way, just after the solstice, most everything began feeling arbitrary. The ice cubes flushed down the toilet, a spoon stuck under a pillow, Mama Heaton's gallbladder in a pink plastic bucket, that kid from 7th grade's spleen, the buttermilk poured on my stepmother's bread, the alphabet, the weather, the yellow stars scratched into your skin, the alphabet, oh, the paper donkeys with so many tails where a tail shouldn't be. I'm not sure what to say about the balloons tangled in the gumball tree, the fibrous forest, another vial of drawn blood. I doubt I could pick my body from a lineup. For weeks, I felt like I was dragging a sour dish towel beneath my brain. That one, I'd say to the lineup officer, the one with the lemons, the one that reeks of this morning's milk, last night's lamb juice, the raw food I sneak to the dog. In the beginning, there was a body. Also the fear of never being desired again, of never desiring, of saying desire so many times it becomes dire. Then the incinerated parts, the parts that washed down the drain, the parts that were useless but still salvaged, the parts that no longer served any use. If you say belly button over and over, it'll start to sound like something else, like saying hydrangea until it becomes a bomb. Here's my radiation poem. It's a prose poem, but I think elements of both of your radiation poems feel a little here. It's called To Get to the Other Side. Do you ever feel like an alien? I ask Cliff. He's arranging my body on the radiation table. Usually I apologize for my muddy boots, but today I'm feeling more and more like my childhood alien abduction dreams were actually dreams about middle-aged cancer treatment. Like you've taken me from a field of poppies, I say, and are performing bizarre intergalactic experiments on me. Cliff laughs and secures my arm in a vise. He closes the 12-inch steel door behind him. Once I'm inside the radiation tube, I'm not supposed to think about Marie Curie's cataracts or her fingernails falling off or the fact that her casket is made of lead. So instead, I repeat over and over, healing radiant light, healing radiant light. And when I get bored of repeating healing radiant light, I make up jokes instead. Horse walks into a bar with a camel hanging from his mouth. Bartender says, "Need a healing radiant light?" Cliff is on the other side of the glass. His voice booms through the speaker. "You ready?" he asks. I give a thumbs up. Why did the woman cross the road? To get to the healing radiant light. Cliff tells me to breathe in, deeper, deeper. That's it, he says, and hold. At least I get to be the human, I'll tell him if he comes back. Healing radiant light. Knock, knock. Healing radiant light. Who's there? And release, he says. I open my eyes to see the pine trees they've painted on the ceiling to trick my mind into thinking I'm lying in a field on the earth, staring up through the green and into the spacious blue sky. The eye of the machine scans me, beeps, and holds. And again, Cliff says, how many women does it take to screw in a healing radiant light bulb? One. The pain scale. Nearly always I was a 6. Somewhere between a 5 and a 6, I'd say. Between moderate and severe. Between tiger lily and hothouse orchid. Between learning how to sound out a word I've only ever read and learning how to spell despair, be in disrepair. What's the difference, I asked, between pain and discomfort? Am I feeling pain that you've cut off my breasts? That you've slit me from hip bone to hip bone and taken skin and fat from my abdomen, taken the tiniest blood vessels and moved them to make these sort of breast-looking breasts? Or is it discomfort? Is it discomfort? Is it discomfort that I cannot roll over onto my side, look at the birds out the window, that someone has to help me to the bathroom, that someone, or maybe just me, will have to put on these disposable gloves bought to go grocery shopping in the early days of the pandemic? Oh, how we washed the plums. And use these gloves now to drag the shit out of me, the shit that collects and collects from all the drugs. Is that pain? Is that discomfort? Is the crying into the sink? Is the nipple falling off in the shower? Or the other that was hanging on by what seemed to be a thread? How I took my toenail clippers to it? The wince, the flushing it down the toilet so as not to draw rats to the trash? Pain, I'd say yes. Somewhere between a 5 and a 6, I think. But maybe a 2 or so, maybe an 8. But God, I'm ready for a pleasure scale, and not moderate pleasure. I want severe, severed but raptured, not comfort but pleasure, pure, unadulterated pleasure. 10, I want to say. 10. I do, still wanting that. So I'll read 2 more, a little bit of a longer one and then a short one. Is that okay, Barb? Yeah. Okay. Okay. The paper anniversary. I wrote this on the first anniversary of my diagnosis, or started writing it then. Paper gowns are not as soft as cloth gowns, are not as soft as silk, as milk, which is only soft until it sours. Here in the wee hours I sulk, the bulk of my body, my thin skin, the membrane of my weak brain. After the fanfare, the hoopla, The careful decisions, sloppy incisions, I write about the violets gone blue, the violence, that roses are red, that also pale yellow. Hello, it's been 1 year. What have I to fear? These queer balloons, pop, pop, pop. Paper gowns are not as soft as cloth gowns, are not as soft as dirt. This insidious hurt, and this and this and that and that and that, a rat on the grave of a spouse, a mouse, 2 mouses, so mice, so fuzzy dice, in a sky blue van. I should have been a man, and I was, and I wan and wane, am as sane as a sanitary napkin, adhered to your big, fat, beautiful forehead. Bring me your dead, let them dance in my bed, let them swoon and spin and tap, tap, tap. Paper gowns are not as soft as cloth gowns, are not as soft as dust, the uncle who cussed, and through bottles, his face of models, this pace of piecing, of piecemeal, quiet thrill, grown shrill, grown silent as a mole on your spine. Oh, you're divine in your shame, this blame. Your name is mud in my eye, a chicken thigh I licked, gnawed to the bone, this moan, a wishbone caught in my pale, clean throat. Paper gowns are not as soft as cloth gowns, are not as soft as water, as the eyelashes of my daughter, who perhaps I've disappointed, certainly anointed, the oils and creams, the comb I've mouthed 1,000 times, the dreams. What a mystery, this sealed vessel, this meal for worms. Oh, how we squirm in the face of disaster, a vase full of asters. It's not love I'm after, but after the aftermath in which X approaches infinity, the serenity. See also my affinity for pain. Paper gowns are not as soft as cloth gowns, are not as soft as the skin of the pear, pelt of the bear, the felt thing, the svelte and sung, wrung out to dry, draped over the faucet, just so you know I've lost it all, or am losing, unloosing, a viper, candy striper, sunbeam and swish, the unwashed dish, the woman at the sink is sinking, is thinking. To abandon a body is a different sort of song, welcome, fright, this flight, the sonorous water, amorous lover. What a lark, this dark, to couple and waft, drain these noodles. I wonder how many times I've said, brush your teeth, as if mattering begins in the head. We'll all be dead, we'll all be dead. Just brush your teeth and go to bed. And here a little one in honor of fall and Thanksgiving that's coming. Something like gratitude. That my husband was never a breast man. That I was wasted on him, my stepfather once joked. That the doctor can make nipples of scar tissue, though they flatten over time or do not take at all. That the lady can airbrush color on my areolae, though she warns against the deeper pinks as I'm getting older. That I'm getting older. That there are calcium pills to counteract the pills that leach the calcium from my bones, and other pills and others, and the cold water too, with which I swallow it all down.
Wow, excellent. Oh, Nicole, another fabulous reading. The poem about the second to last poem you read, there's so much sonic play in there. I mean, it reminds me of like beat poets, there's just so much really wonderful word play or sound play, I guess what it is. Thank you, all three of you, incredible poets. I guess I should ask if anyone in the audience has a question. I want to again encourage you to please look for these poets' books either in a bookstore or in the library. Oh, I had a question. Felicia, the poems you read this evening, will they be published, or are they in a collection now, or is there a collection pending?
These were the test driving all of these. They're all relatively recent, and so the manuscript is finished, but it is now gonna try to find its way into the world.
Excellent.
So no, none of the ones that I read have actually even, I just barely started sending them out. So
wonderful. Good to know. Any questions from anyone?
Well, there are many, many things in the chat. Let's see.
I
think they're mostly praise.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That was amazing. Women, I'm astounded. Thank you so much.
Yes. All right. Well, look for the recording on the library YouTube channel. Lucy Hanley, thank you so much. Ridgefield Public Library, or Ridgefield Library rather, is an amazing poetry center. We are knocking them dead in Connecticut here with such great programming, to which I owe great thanks to Lucy. So, and everyone else who came this evening, thank you. Thank you for choosing us. Thank you for choosing poetry. So, good night.